Hello and welcome back to my YouTube video. Today I'm going to be doing the 14.1b jungle tier list. So if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. We are very close to 500 subscribers, which is incredible because I didn't think I would get anywhere with this, but all the amazing comments and the goals which we keep hitting, it's great, and it really encourages me to keep going with all this content. But let's get into the video. So to begin with, Leesin is going to be the first champion which I want to cover. He is performing fairly well. He is going to sit in my A tier. Main thing here is choosing between Sundered Sky and Eclipse is really important. You can build both within most games. Eclipse does tend to outperform Sundered Sky as a first item. However, it's very limited sample size at the moment. So just be wary about that. Other than that, you do have options later on to your build. You can pick up things like a Sterix Gauge. You can pick up things like a Death Stance, a GA. You can go more lethality heavy. Edge of Night is a very viable option for Leesin. He does have quite a few good lethality options. You can also pick up something like a Hubris if you're really snowballing. Overall, just in a decent spot. Not quite S tier at the moment, as there are a lot of strong champions, which have kind of like benefited from certain items within the game, Leandry being one of them, or Kraken Slayer being staying as a relatively good item for some of them. But yeah, definitely in a solid spot. Graves is going to be in my S tier. He is definitely someone who benefits from lethality and crit variations, and with the likes of Youmuu's being a great rush option on him, and then Collector being a great follow-up, he is in a very strong spot. You can also pick up things like Hubris once again, to get some more AD snowballing going. Alongside that, you can go down the Cleave Asterix path if you really want to, or you can also just go Shilbo and Bloodthirster. There are lots of options for Graves. He is in a very strong spot at the moment. Definitely worth picking up. Nocturne, not quite as strong as last season. The hexplate item, experimental hexplate, is definitely something which is keeping him afloat at the moment. Without this item, he'd definitely be in a worse spot. However, Shojin is still a viable option as like a follow-on from experimental hexplate. Make sure you are still picking up Lucids. I know a lot of people have kind of like pivoted away from Lucids, even when it continues to be his strongest pair of boots. He really values the haste. Other than that, Eclipse still a strong option on Nocturne, so definitely a strong S tier contender. Kha'zix, quite close to being S tier. Once again, another champion which really benefits from the likes of Youmuu's, Profane. I mean, you can opt into Profane Hydra if you're looking for a bit more wave clear. Hubris is a really solid option on him. You can also go Voltaic Cyclosword. It is a viable option on him. I don't believe it's as performant as Youmuu's Ghostblade, but it's definitely something there. Kayn is underperforming at the moment. Both red and blue Kayn are really struggling. They do scale up into being decent champions. Both of them do just struggle early game though. Youmuu's and Sundered Sky is going to be the path you want to go for. Blue Youmuu's, red Sundered Sky. But the strength of the early game just isn't there at the moment. He is really struggling, which is why he finds himself in the B tier. If he gets a bit of more power early game, then I could definitely see him rising back up towards the S tier, and it wouldn't surprise me if they do buff him this patch, as he is a very popular champion. Xin Zhao actually gained a huge amount of popularity this patch, one of the biggest winners of Titanic being an auto attack reset. Really helps with his ability to triple stack his Q, and just increases his DPS output by a significant amount, so finds himself within the S tier. Just be aware there are certain champions which do just out DPS him or just have insane burst, which can kind of just work around him. But yeah, definitely sitting nice in the S tier. Master Yi, also going to be in the S tier. He's one of the strongest options at the moment, especially if you're looking for a hyper carry. Does a huge amount of damage. Kraken Slayer, Ginsu's if you want it. There are other options in like Deathblade, in Death Stance. Yeah, he's strong options, definitely in a good spot at the moment. Viego, also in a strong spot. A lot of the crit Kraken Slayer options, I'm going to include Belveth here, as she also falls under this umbrella. Kraken Slayer starters are really strong in the jungle at the moment. Their ability to clear, their damage, just overall their ability to fight a lot of situations is really strong at the moment, making them very good options. Stridebreaker also did just get buffed, which definitely does help Belveth. Echo, going to be in the A tier. Now that Storm Surge and Rocket Belt have been nerfed, a lot of the AP jungle options have been hit a decent amount. The likes of Echo, still not too bad, can opt into things like Rabadon's Lichbane, Nash's Tooth, which Nash's Tooth does tend to be his best rush option, has been in the past, but a lot of people aren't a fan of that kind of like playstyle on starter, so you tend to see people differing away from it. But if you are going Nash's, he can be considered an S tier option. Just be aware that his other AP options tend to be a bit weaker. Eve is, if you build her incorrectly, a B tier option. If you build her Lichbane Rush, she is incredibly strong at the moment. Lichbane is a really powerful item. It wouldn't surprise me if they nerf it. That's just how strong it is. Does find herself in the S tier. Other than that, Medjay is even cheaper now, making it even better of an option. So something like a Lich into Medjay, really strong combination you've got there. And then you can still power items like Rocket Belt. You can opt into something like Rabadon's. Now that it's more early game focused, Rabadon second is a very viable option for Eve. So yeah, lots of options there. Rengar taking over a couple of ladders, especially in elite play. Even though this tier list is more focused around like mid-elo, Rengar still performing very well. Profane Hydra gives him access to a lot of wave clear, jungle clear, just AoE, which makes him quite powerful, as he tends to struggle with that. His W doesn't do a huge amount of damage, making it harder to clear camps. But overall, in a very good spot at the moment. The lethality options definitely did help Rengar. Has access to like Hubris as a really solid second option. You can also go things like Opportunity, Cyclosword. All these work quite nicely on him. Lilia is going to be my first S+ option. So Lilia is in a really good spot at the moment. Liandry's is incredibly strong on her. She can opt into things like Riftmaker, Rylai. These items are also really good at the moment, and it just puts her in a really strong spot. She doesn't fall off. She like continues to power items throughout the game, and yeah, just in a really good spot at the moment. Definitely a S+ tier option. Alongside that, Briar, also an S+ tier option. So I believe they were planning on hotfixing her in doing changes in the hotfix, but they never got round to it. She will probably get nerfed next patch, I believe. But yeah, just really performing quite well at the moment. Lethality is still the way you want to go, like a Youmuu's, Collector, LDR, stuff like this really works quite well on her. But yeah, just in a really good spot at the moment. Brand, going to be in the S tier. Once again, another good Liandry's user, without really having mana problems in the jungle at the moment. A lot of AP burn champions can abuse Liandry. I'm going to talk about Nunu, Udyr, Mordekaiser. All these champions can really abuse it. Rumble is another one, and it gives them a lot of power, as it is a very strong item if your champion is good at using it. Shaco, not doing too great at the moment. He finds himself in the B tier. Both AP and AD Shaco are kind of struggling. It's mostly to do with the gank angles being a bit harder to kind of play around, and oftentimes you can just have your clone and yourself chunked with the amount of damage within the game, which can make it kind of hard to navigate some fights. But overall, damage is still decent, but just be aware you don't scale as hard as a lot of the other champions within the game, and that can hurt him a significant amount. Diana going to find herself within the B tier as well. After Storm Surge and Rocket Belt got nerfed, Diana Jungle originally wasn't doing too great. It was like an 8. Well, I mean, it was doing fine. It was like an A tier option, but with the nerfs to the two items, does find itself down in the B tier. You are probably looking to opt to rush like Nash's, and then kind of power your other items like Rocket Belt, Storm Surge, Rabadon's, Zhonya. These options are here. I don't believe Tank Diana does too well at the moment either, which is why that is also struggling. Overall, just finds herself in the B tier, not doing too great with the items. Hecarim started the season off really badly. A lot of people just decided to stop going Shojin first, which was weird, as that item is really powerful. But yeah, if you're building Shojin and you're building Eclipse as like your 1-2, Hecarim is on a really good spot. Definitely worth playing at the moment. If you are looking to like get some elo. That's if you play the champion. Jarvan, not... okay, so whereas I'd recommend playing Hecarim, I wouldn't really recommend playing Jarvan at the moment. Jarvan, when he is like a B tier option, tends to be kind of awkward to play, as he is no longer able to just be a consistent, reliable ganker. especially within the current meta, he struggles a bit more with the items just being a bit worse for him. He really valued things like the Gore Drink and the Stride Breaker, which aren't as accessible for him now. Overall, just puts him in a worse spot. Sons of Sky isn't as great, doesn't give him as much utility. He himself doesn't want to be as much of a fighter, as more of a utility bot and someone who can just output a rotation of spells. Now that he doesn't have access to as much of that CDR, definitely does hurt him. Vi, going to find herself in the S tier. So Vi received a bunch of changes to try and push her back towards being more of a bruiser not too long ago. Overall, that helped her massively. She now sees pro play within the LEC at the moment, but overall definitely did help her find a spot in this season. Experimental Hexplay, Sundered Sky, both very good options on her. Fiddlesticks going to be with the B tier, struggling a bit, struggling a lot actually. He's usually sat within the S tier. The itemization changes really hurt him. He just doesn't have a good fallback pattern at the moment, so they'll probably end up buffing him. Zach got hotfix buffed, still finds himself within the B tier. He'll probably rise up as the patch goes on though, as it doesn't account for like a hotfix patch, so this is using data from both pre-hotfix and hotfix patch. Overall, Liandry's is the way you want to go. Really benefits from this item. Doesn't have as great Sunfire options. Losing Radiant Virtue definitely did hurt him a significant amount. Kha'zix is going to be within my C tier. He is the only champion within the C tier. In fact, I'm going to put Silas down here as well. Silas is going to be in the D tier. Silas is no longer really viable as a jungler, which is unfortunate, as a lot of people really did enjoy playing it. Kha'zix, however, is just really struggling. Not quite to the same degree as Silas, but his itemization just took a big hit. Not having access to like mana options in like the Leandry and the Ludens hurt this champion a huge amount. Not unlike a lot of champions which really didn't care about like their mana consumption. It's a big problem for Kha'zix in his clear, where yeah, he would just go Gragas is going to be within my B tier. He is weaker than last season. Lichbane is going to be the way you want to go, I believe, as a first option. That's going to be the case with a lot of these champions. In fact, Nidalee is another one who would be a B tier option if, unless... okay, so Nidalee would be a B tier option, but I've put her in the A tier because Lichbane Nidalee is so good. I would really recommend playing it over her other options at the moment. Same goes for Gragas. Play Lichbane Gragas and he becomes a better champion. The item is very strong, goes under the radar on a lot of options at the moment, and should definitely be picked up by a lot of these champions. I believe the same goes for Elise actually, so I'm going to put Elise here. Can also abuse Lichbane. Champions which have the likes of... auto attack abilities, which are empowering and forces them to be in melee range, really benefit from an item like that. Kindred going to be within my A tier. Once again, can use the likes of Kraken Slayer. However, Triforce does outperform it at the moment, so do keep that in mind. If you're looking to be a bit more durable, then that is a good option. Other than that, Bork is really underperforming, so I'd kind of stay away from that as an option. But yeah, definitely look at Triforce Kindred. Nunu, performing quite well at the moment if you're opting into the Leandry's path. If you're not, he is struggling a bit more. He was a Radiant Virtue user, and losing that item definitely did hurt him. Warwick going to be within the S tier. So Warwick received a bunch of buffs towards the end of last season on his W movement speed, his W cooldown, and his Q damage to monsters, and that has put him in a great position for this season. Really good with Titanic Hydra, can opt into things like a Trinity Force afterwards. Yeah, just in a better spot. Jax is going to be my S+ tier, so he is a incredible flex pick. He can be both played in the top lane and the jungle at the moment to large amounts of success. Really benefits from an item like Sundered Sky, can opt into things like Shojin. You don't tend to go Zhonya's as much anymore, but it is still an option there. But yeah, just performing a lot better. Trinity Force, of course, is still an option you do want to go. And you can go Titanic Hydra in the jungle, so there's lots of options there. Rammus is going to be in the A tier. There's just a lot of AP at the moment. The likes of Lilia, Eve, Brand can just completely make Rammus redundant as a champion. And a lot of people are playing these AP options, which definitely does hurt. But if you're playing Rammus into AD, then you tend to be fine. There's less there's less pen within the game, as stacking pen has gone. You can't go like Shurelder's Cleaver, for example, which definitely does help him, makes him a lot more durable against a lot of these champions. Udyr is going to be with the A tier. This is primarily the Liandry variant of Udyr. He is performing quite well with it. You don't see a huge amount of AD Udyr these days. But yeah, if you're going with a more tanky playstyle, pick up something like a Liandry, and then you can opt into like a Riftmaker, Jack Show, if you want a bit more resistances and a bit more health. There are options there, so definitely look around, see what you can kind of like mess around with, as he does have interesting build paths. Talon is going to be my B tier. He is close to the A tier. This is very much if you're able to snowball, get your Yomus, get your Hubris, pick up things like Edge, Schroeder's Grudge, stuff like these, and Talon is at a very good spot. It works as a very nice snowballing assassin. Taliyah going to be within the B tier, has worse options. Taliyah both mid and jungle is hurt a lot more than last season. Mid Taliyah was really overperforming though. It's not doing too bad this season, but yeah, not as strong as last season. And jungle Taliyah kind of followed the same trajectory, just not as strong as last season. Was kind of an S tier option, more of a B tier option this season. Might receive some buffs. I don't believe so though, as she tends to be kind of unpopular. So yeah, we'll probably just find herself in the B tier. Amumu going to be in the B tier, struggling with the new options, losing access to the likes of Demonic, Radiant Virtue, Sunfire's being a bit weaker has really hurt this champion. So yeah, he's finding himself in the B tier. Will get buffed, I believe. Amumu is someone who they want to keep relatively strong, as he is a very accessible new player champion. Shyvana going to be in the B tier. Can climb a tier if you are building Titanic Hydra on Shyvana. It is definitely the way you want to go. In her current state though, she desperately needs her VGU, but that's not coming out until next year. So it'll be interesting to see like what they plan on doing with this champion. It'll be nice to see it as being pushed more towards both builds, but they do seem to want to push it towards AD at the moment, especially with like a bunch of the changes they did recently. Poppy is going to be moving into my B tier as well. Just not performing too great in the jungle. As like a tank option, if you're playing Bruiser Poppy, she just rise up a tier towards the A tier. That is the Sky variant, which is really performing quite well at the moment. But yeah, for the most part, she is like a B tier option if you're playing tank, A tier option if you're playing Bruiser. But Bruiser has played less, so I put her in the B tier. Sejuani's struggling a lot more. Wants to go the Magic Sunfires this season. I can't remember what I scored off the top of my head. But yeah, like 600 health, 40 magic resist. Gives access to the ability to clear camps, which is something she really struggles with. Yeah, B tier option though. Not doing too great. Ivern going to be my S tier, someone who really benefits from the support items being cheaper and just better. Moonstone being a solid option on him again, Ardent Sensor being a better option, Staff of Floating Water giving movement speed, all these changes really helped him. Redemption, of course, also being a really solid option. Rek'Sai going to be in my A tier. She is not performing as well as the start of the season. Titanic Hydra is the way you want to go as a first option. If you're not going that, then something like Yomu's is still a good option. If anything, it is better in the games you are able to play it in, where you are playing as more of this assassin over being more of a bruiser. But yeah, definitely in a fine spot. Better than the end of last season, as she was struggling towards the end of last season, but worse than her like overall power level throughout last season, where she was quite strong. Maokai going to be in my B tier, just not performing great at the moment. Liandry's, I believe, is the way you want to go. You want to be picking up like a Liandry's, a double Riftmaker, and then you can build like hybrid tank, like a hybrid AP tank, or you could just go primary tank. You can pick up something like a Sunfires and then go down that route, or you can play a bit more supportive, pick up something like a Locket, maybe like a Redemption, Knights if you're playing around the carry. You do have options here, but overall, just as a champion, he isn't performing as well as a lot of the other options. Wukong gotta find himself within the B tier as well. Overall, this champ's just always like pro jailed at the moment. Very much has been like buff nerf. Overall, yeah, Sky, Triforce, I believe, are the way you want, the kind of options you want to go. But overall, just underperforming at the moment. Trundle going to be within the S tier. Really benefits from an item like Titanic Hydra. You can pick up something like a Triforce. It does definitely help him. But overall, yeah, in a good spot. Just out DPSs a lot of champions. It's great split push. Can drain tanks. Yeah, Trundle is in a decent spot at the moment. Zed is going to be within the B tier. Received a bunch of hotfix buffs, which definitely did help him. Has access to the likes of Youmu's, Profane Hydra. These are kind of like the ways you want to go with this champion, especially within the jungle. And yeah, he's not doing too badly, but definitely not as solid as a lot of the other options. We'll see where he goes from his hotfix buff. It might be a chance he like rises towards the A tier, but for the most part, he is a B tier jungle option. Rumble actually doing really well at the moment in the jungle. Solid A tier option, has access to the likes of Liandry, Riftmaker being a solid option. You can go Storm Surge. Yeah, there are good options there for Rumble. Overall, just in a really good spot at the moment, which is weird because we haven't seen Rumble jungle be in a good spot for a while. If you want to play it, now is the time to play it. And Mordekaiser is also going to be my A tier. Mordekaiser is performing quite well at the moment. Once again, Riftmaker, Liandry, it'll be like Rylai, Liandry, Riftmaker as his solid core options. And then you can go into more tanky options, or you can go into more AP focus options. You have choices there. It really depends on game and how fed or snowballing you are. Gwen, going to be my A tier. Performing quite well at the moment. Did receive a hotfix nerf as she was performing so well. Gonna find herself at the A tier for this reason. Otherwise, she would have been like a solid S, maybe even S plus option. Still something like the Nashers into the Riftmaker. You can pick up things like Zhonya, Rabadon. Overall, her build path is a lot better. Doesn't really care about mana options. So yeah, in a good spot. Teemo, going to be in the S tier. So Teemo is really strong at the moment. You mainly want to play around his shrooms, that scales incredibly well. Liandry into Malignance. You don't really need Red Ashes on him at the moment. Yeah, and you can pick up things like Rabadons if you want. You can pick up things like Zhonya's, Storm Surge. There are lots of really powerful options on Teemo. And you can take things like Dark Harvest if you're really looking to snowball and have a lot of fun with a rune. Volibear, Skarner, and Qiyana could all find themselves in the B tier. So in Volibear's case, he is very much struggling with the current itemization. If anything, AP Volibear seems to be just as performant as Tank Volibear. This would be something like the Nashers into the Riftmaker, whereas Tank would be more something like an Iceborne into maybe like a Titanic Hydra or a Steric or a just a full-on tank option. So maybe something like a Full Mill. But overall, yeah, pick depending on what you really enjoy, if anything, at the moment. You can, of course, like differ depending on game states and stuff like that. But overall, Volibear kind of underperforming at the moment. In Skada's case, he is also underperforming. This is mostly because he doesn't have great options. His kit is outdated. But if you're going anything, it'll be like the Triforce into like Cleaver, Steric, something like that. Qiyana, not doing too badly, but still struggles within the jungle. Hasn't got the greatest clear. This will be something like Profane Hydra, Opportunity, Youmu's, Hubris, Schroeder's Edge of Night. You have options there. And then Pantheon, who I just moved in here, is not is close to the A tier, but not quite there. This would be something like Eclipse, Shojin, and then like bruisery options, or you could go like vanity options actually if you really want to. That'll be like Edge and Shoulders, or if you go more bruisery, Death Stance and GA, there are options there. But yeah, those are my thoughts for the jungle tier list. The main kind of thing is the S and the S plus tier. They do stand quite above most of the other picks at the moment. The S plus tier, of course, being Lilia, Briar, Jax, all very strong options at the moment. Definitely recommend picking these champions up, as I imagine all three will be nerfed next patch. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next one. Goodbye.